Hi,
Hi.
Tiffany. Hey, Sarah. I am Lea Tran, and my co-host here is Sarah. And we are so happy to have our special guest on today, Tiffany Werhner. And she is a professional of many things. She's an author, she's a writer, she's a speaker, she's a radio show host. So it's a little weird for have her on the other side of the table, but I'm sure she'll forgive us if anything that we didn't do right. So I hope everybody gonna enjoy what she has to say, because she's obviously have a lot of things that we would love to tap into her wisdom. So welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you so much for having me. It's
Thank you
amazing.
for.
And it's an honor to be here. What a
Oh, our
compliment coming from you
pleasure.
guys.
Oh, thank you. Very, very our pleasure. So as always, we're going to start the show. But before Sarah introduce herself, I just want to set real quick that our platform, because both of us were former refugee. So our platform, we dedicated to hoping that when you enjoy the show, if you can go to refugeefilmschool.com and donate anything that you could for refugees in Malaysia. That's what we're sponsoring. And this show is about helping young students, refugees who are trapped with their family in Malaysia for 5-10 years and still have no ending in sight. So that's what we are doing. We are trying to help them create a brighter future. But other than that, we're gonna start with Sarah.
Yes, I'm going to start. And hello, everybody. Quickly, I just want to say that I am Sarah M. I'm from Cambodia. I grew up beautifully in my childhood until I got to college. That's when my country turned upside down by the communist Khmer Rouge. They came in, they basically destroyed our life, destroyed our country. And I struggled to survive from starvation and survive from disease, and almost didn't make it. But I'm so grateful God saved my life. I'm alive, and I'm also able to escape, not only escape from the captivity, I also escaped from the country. And so grateful to be here, to meet so wonderful people in this country. And I was able to record my story, my journey in a book, which I cannot find my book. It's always. But
How I survived the killing fields.
yes, How I Survived the Killing Fields. That's my book. And it's available on my website. And I'm also going out to speak, to share a message of hope and inspiration. So come to visit my website, sarahm.com, and you can find some more information. And if you need to reach out to a speaker, both Lee and I can help you with that. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Sarah. So I am gonna do a speed version. So my name is Lea Tran. You can find out all my information at leatran.com. I am a TEDx speaker. I'm also had a memoir out last year to talk about my journey of a refugee from Vietnam to Indonesia to America. My dad actually built a boat haul over 500 people to get out to the sea, and how we survived and how we made a new life here in America. So you can find out all those information on my website. And I am also a speaker. I also have a message of hope and courage and empower women to get out of their tragic moments, to get into the magic moment. That's what we want. We want to bypass the trauma and move forward. And today I am so happy to have Tiffany, who is a licensed psychotherapist. She's also a broadcast radio host. And she also an author of 2 books. Her credential is a long list. So I am sure if you if you are connecting with her and go out and check her out, you can find out a lot more information about who she is. But we're so grateful that she is taking out her busy time today and share with us on our platform about who she is and what she's doing to help mental health patients or people. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, you're welcome. So tell us a little bit about who you really are and why are you getting into the psychotherapy field?
Well, first of all, I wrote one book, not two.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One
Two
was a
awards, right? Two-time award
award.
nominated.
Two
I'm
2
sorry.
years
nominated.
an award nominated for the book, yeah. But one book. Anyway, so long story short, when I was young, I lost my parents, found my mother on the floor with a brain aneurysm right after high school, and 2 grandparents and my father all passed away while I was in college. I didn't know what I was going to do or what major I was like, what I wanted to study at the time. So when it comes junior year, you can't be an undecided major anymore. And so you have to pick a major, and went to the guidance counselor and they said, you have enough credits to have a degree. You can go on with sociology or psychology. And so I have a minor in sociology and bachelor's in psychology, as well as a master's and then license and that kind of stuff. When my mother passed away, my dad is a Marine and war hero, Purple Hearts, 3 Purple Hearts and everything. And he didn't believe in mental health counseling. So when I asked for help, because I wasn't handling that trauma very well, he said, well, you're not crazy. You don't need help. Like, you can get through this. So that was my first introduction on stigma and mental health. So fast forwarding, I saw how trauma could really derail somebody if we don't heal from it, as an at-risk youth myself and all that. And then decided to focus on working with at-risk youth and survivors of abuse and trauma and so forth. So then I did my due diligence working with Department of Juvenile Justice, doing correctional facilities, working with at-risk youth, maximum risk, people that were in there for serious crimes, and did that for several years. And then kept seeing the stigma on mental health present itself, and went into private practice and opened my own counseling center, and kept seeing the stigma. So my own counseling center, there's no medication providers. People are treated with respect, with a bottle of water, like it's not intimidating to come in for help. Coffee, like a living room setting, and where they don't feel like stigmatized at all for seeking help. And when I had the grand opening for that ribbon cutting, because I joined the Chamber of Commerce, gave a speech. As you get to know me, I have a stupid sense of humor too. And Can Talk Radio was there and asked if I would like to host a psychology show. And so I started 7 years ago, Moments of Clarity with Tiffany, and it's focused on inspirational stories of exceptional guests that have overcome something, took a risk, kept fighting through themselves, bet on themselves, and overcame it. And like you 2 beautiful ladies used their trauma in order to inspire others. And so I've been doing that for 7 years. And it's been nominated for about 15 awards and placed the final 10 in 3 categories of the People's Choice Podcast Awards, because it aired live as a radio show, but then it's saved almost everywhere as a podcast. So,
Well,
that's
kudos
in a
for,
nutshell.
yes, yeah, it is a lot. I know this
Impressive.
is a heavy, very heavy topic. So I really appreciate, we appreciate that what you have done, because a lot of people really live in silence, in pain, silent
Mhm.
pain. when a person go through trauma, sometimes it is not easy to open up because you almost like you open up the wound again. And prior to the show, you was talking about your dad was serving in Vietnam. And first of all, I really want to thank your dad for the service, because, going to Vietnam was a country that I came from, to fight for somebody and, come home and, getting all those PTSD that you're kind of hiding and you don't let it out of the bag. So somebody told me that typically it takes 40 years for a person to open up their PTSD and talk about it. So I'm glad that at least you are talking for your dad. I believe you say your late dad. So I'm so grateful that you actually opened the door and help many people to say that it is okay to talk about it. It is not something that's shameful. It's not something that we did, there's nothing we did wrong. We come from, being a refugee, I had that label that I tuck in the back of my shirt all the time, not a moment that I forget about it. But we have to get bypass it and move on. So, do you have some of the success story that you can share with us, that how a person turn around and, based on your radio show or your help? We want a thriving story. We want to share with people.
I would just share Sarah M's show. I have almost 600 episodes. You can't choose just one.
Yeah, I know.
So many exceptional stories. But change, I say all the time, change can only come when we stand together as one. And back then, mental health wasn't as well. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And even when I started the show 7 years ago, it was hard for me to get guests on the show at first, because people were like, I don't want to put myself out there. I don't know. I don't really want to talk about this.
Right.
Now people are asking to be on the show. So it's kind of like, it's made a lot of comeback, but we have so much further to go. And you just got to keep trying, because it wasn't easy for me. But we're talking about risk and like betting on ourselves and things like that. Isn't that the theme of this month for you guys?
Right.
So I never gave up, So
I have saw something you wrote about, you're shedding a light for the people who are in the tunnel. And I think sometimes many of us who are, I don't want to use the word victim, but
I hate that word.
I hate that word too. We're not the victim, but we were in that circumstances. And sometimes people feel comfortable to be in the tunnel because it's dark, it's not being seen. So they're afraid of the light, and they afraid of revealing themselves. Is there a good way that you can tell them? And I think, one part of it is just invite them to the show. And when you talk a little bit about it, and then it encourages you to talk a little more, and soon enough, you get over that fear of about exposing yourself.
When people go through a trauma and everything like that, and push it aside because of undeserved shame, undeserved guilt. A lot of people don't want to look like a victim or feel pitied, or when they share their story, they feel like they say they're whining, or they don't want people to look down on it. And it's not a whining thing. It's telling our story and surviving. What we do with us is what defines our character. What we do with what we've been through is what defines who we are, shows our strength. When we are put in a crisis situation of burning buildings first, you're going to be the one that's going to be knocking over little children and elderly people, or are you going to help people out the door, but we don't really know until we're put in that position. We could say we're going to be the hero, but
it is so true. Well, I want to share a little bit. When I first have a hint about sharing my story in public, and I get put down from a gentleman who was a vendor at my previous business. And he's like, well, you guys using that for like pity, or, it's almost like it putting down. And that's why we are shy away from it, because we don't want to say the story as like, oh, look at me, pity me, you know, this thing. No, we want to share about the journey, that how rough, and so many people out there are hiding their journey because of that. It's like there's a lot of, I mean, probably 99% of the people who empathy, there will be one or two gonna criticize and it's gonna try to put you down, no matter what. So I learned to,
People that are just jealous. And there's a quote that someone once told me. They say lions don't care about the opinions of sheep. Oh, someone
sure,
wants
we just roar, right? I say, just take a deep breath and roar.
So, you know, I flinched for that bell, by the way.
Yeah.
But I mean, are you gonna let a sheep, somebody that wants to silence because I've gotten hate mail too and stuff like that. It's kind of like, well.
Yeah. So
Right.
I think I love Brene Brown because she's the one who actually give me a lot of inspiration about take the courage and go into the ring and start fighting, because people who criticize you are people who are outside the ring. They don't dare to come in and they just like to criticize. And you know, I have read about Elizabeth Gilbert and Brene Brown, and I was like, you know what? If we don't talk about it, a lot of people will be shying away and not talking about it too. So I really appreciate that your radio show host is all about, you know, concentrating on the stigma and how mental health, because a lot of us do have mental health from trauma that trigger to physically help.
Yes, if we don't fix the trauma, and there's like Dr. Jennifer Frazier comes on the show and has talked about how, you know, our brain's an organ and trauma can damage it. It's like if we had a broken arm and let's say we fractured it, right? Some people would say, I don't want to put a cast on it because I'll just let it heal. But okay, it might heal a little bit, but it's never going to be the same. And our brains are so important for mental cognition, for reaching our full potential in life, for being able to do things. And I mean, the worst thing that someone could take from me is my memory and things. I don't want to lose my mind or my physical health on top of that. But unresolved trauma leads from fear of the unknown, fear of insecurity, fear of commitment, fear of the what ifs, the should haves, the anything, fear. And the only thing greater than fear is hope. And when we can bet on ourselves and we can say, you know what, I don't care what that person said, or I know I have a purpose in life and I'm going to fight that fear, because most of the things that we fear don't ever really happen, not the way we fear them. And when we believe in ourselves and we have that hope and that courage, an amazing feeling to accomplish something that we were uncomfortable with or we were scared of, and bet on ourselves. Because when people say I can't, that's the worst 4-letter word I hate that word more than the other ones. You know that I don't say them, right, Sarah? You're not allowed on my radio, but can't, I hate more than the other ones, to be honest.
Well, I think a lot of time that we see people come out and it makes us feel comfortable, like, oh, I'm not alone. So if she share her story, I have a really painful thing that I also like to share. So somebody else can learn from it and get out and heal. And like you said, you know, it is a lot of time that the first line in my book is like, there's a misconception about, you know, my book, I talk about the refugee, because a lot of time people look from the outside of anyone that they know. Sometimes people don't know what kind of trauma you go through or anybody else's go through. And there's a misconception there that, oh, she's brave. She got it made. Everything is fine. But at night, sometimes you're fighting because you're trying to get over that trauma, that fear. And so it is very important for us to share our story. And are you still practicing? Right.
And the more you share it, the more that it gets easier and you heal. Like when you're starting to remember it, that's your brain's processing, saying, I'm ready to I'm ready to cope with this. We can shove things under the rug as much as we want, but that pile under the rug gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually we trip over it. Things will always resurface. We can't ignore things.
You
But
can
we-
hide it.
I don't know. You can try to, but it will
Right.
come back
It
eventually.
will come back.
We were just talking before the show, like just Sarah M. She was on my radio show last week before,
Last week, yeah.
last week, and has over 2,000 views because of her topic and of your survival, Sarah. And it's amazing. Never stop talking about your story.
Yeah, and
I think
even
everyone
just
should buy your
maybe
book too.
even just one or two people have heard it and you know, feel the impact that they can do something about their story, about their trauma. You're helping.
You
And
said
sometimes you don't even see, you don't even know, like we don't know who's watching, right? And we don't know
Wow.
who our story affecting to. But I keep saying, just keep show up. If it's not for anybody else, it's for ourselves. Because I think this show have helped me and Sarah a lot by just talking and by, oh my goodness, by listening and talking to our guests. We have seen people have more trauma than we did. You know, we thought we come from a hard place. And it's just incredible that each of us have a story. And if we're only willing to share, and that's the only way we heal.
Yeah.
So,
it's a shame to even compare our trauma to other people.
right.
You know, we all have something, it's how we handle it. But you know, some people are like, oh, that doesn't even compare to what so-and-so went through or whatever. But no, every person individually matter. Every trauma. You could be
And-
traumatized by a bug. I don't know, anything. And there's some people that are deathly afraid of birds. Like, I mean, that didn't escape the killing fields or the
Right.
sea, you know, a war by boat, you know, things like that. Like,
Everything can trigger a memory. And that memory can be horrific. And you might not want to share it. I mean, I went on a cruise ship a couple years back. I
Wow.
went, but every time, you know, every time I'm at sea, I'm with friends, I try to forget it. But if I let that moment kind of like slip back and drift back to the past, I got PTSD all over, even in the cruise ship. And it's a giant cruise ship, but out in the ocean, the same sky, the same sea. I mean, it feels horrible.
I
And
commend you for going and putting yourself in that spot to try to prove that, you know, bad things happen, but you survived the worst day of your life, the worst week or worst, however long. And it's never going to happen exactly the same way again. You survived the worst times of your life 100% of the time up until now. And it's commendable. And we don't have to go through the worst day of our life ever the same again.
And the thing is, I think if we keep living in the past with that same pain, and I love Dr. Joe Dispenza, I'm sure you know who he is. And he said about, you know, you got to move forward. But if you don't talk about it and you keep it and you keep reliving in that moments, it's just crippling you. It's not going to let you go anywhere.
Because all these new opportunities come to us in the, you know, in the here and now. If we keep looking behind us and focusing on the past, then we miss the good things that are coming our way now.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. We have to heal from our past. So I share with a lot of people about healing from our own wound first before we can help other people. So in order for us to move forward, we have to take steps to heal ourselves. Internal.
And healing, I think the first step healing is talking about it and have no shame about talking about it.
Well, everyone has a little bit of shame in the beginning, but the more you tell your story and you get the reaction from others that don't judge you, that support, wow, thank you for sharing, you start to realize that it's undeserved shame, undeserved things.
Right.
And that's when sharing your story and you start to see how it affects other people. It's a ripple effect. it's powerful. And it's crazy how the worst moments of our lives can impact other people to be more strong and more willing to talk about theirs. But then they see us and they're like, well, they're not suffering in silence. They're okay to talk about some serious issues, and maybe I should too, kind of deal.
Mhm. So you get so much more gain than hiding in fear. Is there what is one thing you would tell people who are still reluctant about coming forward to share their past so they can move on to the future? What would be something that you can advise them to do at this moment?
I have some clients that come to therapy because of trauma and they're not ready to talk about it. But, I say, okay, well, whenever you're ready, but that's your choice. You can live with that mound behind you and not face the past. It's going to be an open wound forever. And it could resurface, have flashbacks and nightmares and all that stuff, but that's your choice. You are in control right now. You're in control.
That is so true.
How you want to handle the situation. And even if we do nothing about it, that's still your choice to have everything remain as is. It's your choice.
That's exactly what it is. You got the power to make that choice. Nobody can make that for you. And I love it because that is very, very much of the time that I felt I'm standing at the crossroad. I was like, what is my decision? What do I choose? Do I want to choose a bright future and move forward and talk about it? Or do I want to just fake it and pretend that nothing happened? And every night I just feel like it's coming surface back because it's not going away. Like you said, it's just going to resurface.
That have people self-medicate, drink too much. It ruins families. It could ruin marriages, ruin someone's self-esteem. They can live with stress and unresolved, all of those things. And it leads to high blood pressure and stress and anxiety and possibly, God forbid, cancer and things like that.
Heart attack.
And, it's mind, body, spirit. We have to balance everything and heal all of the above. And
yeah, absolutely.
It's a choice.
Mm-hmm. And knowing that you get the power to make that choice. And it's not just for the person, him or herself, but it's actually affecting all the people around them, like the family. When you are not happy, you seems to resent a lot of things. You make decision out of bitterness. You're not happy. Everything is wrong. Everybody is done you wrong because you're not happy. Nothing can be happy. So that's very, very powerful. Yes. And I urge people, you do have a choice. You do have a choice to seek help, or in secret or in open, it doesn't matter what, but do something about it. Yes. And sometimes God put us in a position that we come out so we can share and make that lesson for other people to move forward, to come out. So I think, sometimes it is selfish of us not to share the story that we overcome and we can accomplish to a point. So yeah, it took me a lot of years to think, am I talking too much about myself? No, we're not talking about ourselves. We're talking about the history. We're talking about, the war. We're talking about other millions of people who were in the same, very similar condition. We might see through things, different lenses and through different perspective, but the pain is the same pain. We all come over here. We all want to be accepted. We all want to be loved. We want to belong. And that is, everything that very universal. And I feel that if we don't talk about it, you, our audience, if you don't talk about it, you are actually kind of selfish. I'm sorry, but
so yeah, so more like how we said we're to take risks, the theme.
Yes.
About make yourself uncomfortable and see the result and see how it makes you feel, to tell at least one person what you've been through and see where it goes. But make sure it's a good person that will give good advice, and not only that, but that will listen
Right. And this is where we're not listen to the story to shame anyone. We'll listen to the story with compassion and empathy. But I think, we have done this 19 months since March 2020. And it is a learning curve. It's a learning curve. Every day is a learning curve. Every day is somebody that interesting that we learn from. And
Think about it. Sarah in the killing field and you on a boat escaping Vietnam War out to sea. If someone would have told you back then that, hey, you're going to have a podcast and a microphone and a lot of people are going to be listening, would you have been like, yeah, okay. Like,
I just come back from a networking today. And my introduction to myself is, if 10 years ago you say that I'm going to be a speaker and a writer, I say you were insane. And now I am the insane one because I am introducing myself as a speaker and as a writer. So yeah, you can never say never. I think, that's life. God has a message, and I kind of hear that calling a couple years ago. And I took the risk of being very, very uncomfortable to be out in public. And it's a calculated risk. So it is a good risk because we prepare. We don't just launch something out of the blue, right? Because we bring the message of service. We are out there. You are out there, Tiffany, because you have learned from your own trauma and you have that great heart to help other people. And so is Sarah. I mean, her whole entire journey is not going in vain because now she introduced people back to the history that sometimes has been forgotten or people have not been know about it.
That's true. Actually, until Sarah contacted me, I didn't even know about that. I had to look it up.
Right.
That was, I wasn't born like yet. Or, how do you know? Like,
and the classroom don't teach you all the
they don't teach you
real stuff. You might just go over a chapter real quick about, oh yeah, Cambodia, oh yeah, Vietnam in that era. But I have heard people tell me that I am living through history. I mean, they learned the history through the textbook, and I am actually bringing a different dimension of a person who lived through that history. So I am very proud to share it. So I try not to be selfish and not keeping it.
You just called everyone else selfish.
I am not calling everybody else selfish, but the lesson that I learned, I think that we are proud to share it because it makes somebody, it helps somebody. I mean, our story.
You're saying to be open with your story because by doing that, it will help somebody. And
yes,
by not, it may be like be not helping someone just because of the stigma on mental health.
Right. Exactly. Well, you put it in much better words than I do.
I can't, be like, if you don't talk, you're selfish.
No, I'm doing it in a joking way. But it is hard. It is not easy. You're putting yourself out there. It's almost felt like you're completely stripped naked and standing in front of public because that's how you feel. Sharing your story, sharing your family story, very, very personal stuff. It's not it's not something that I was like, oh, I dream about, I'm growing up and I'm going to share my whole life story to everyone. It's not the case. But so what is one thing that that people can learn from you that that they can put in action right away?
I feel like you just asked me that, but okay, let me come up with something else.
Yes.
To seek help if you're suffering in silence with something that you have not dealt with, but you feel like you should, but are fearful.
Okay.
Don't fear therapists. And if you have even go to one therapist and it's not the right fit, keep trying because not everyone has a good connection with, just keep trying until you find one that you really enjoy talking to and that you can tell anything to. Surround yourself with supportive people, not toxic, that also embrace to listen, validate your feelings, and be there for you and share as well, and that promote you. And I know right now probably there's several of my friends that are watching that I can't see, but that are doing just that, which empowers me to feel like I can help others too. You know, that support and to support each other. And don't be ashamed to admit the truth. The truth will set you free.
Powerful advice. Well, thank you so much. And if people want to get a hold of you, how do they contact you and be in the moment of clarity?
Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. So mocwithtiffany.com.
Okay.
Like Moments of Clarity, mocwithtiffany.com is a website, and you can find me like on all the links on the first page, like my Instagram and all that stuff, and just direct message me, however, Twitter, LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm pretty much everywhere, so you can find me.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and talk
Sure.
about
Having me.
Thank you.
Doing is amazing.
We really appreciate it. And thank you so much. I have to admit, I am very nervous today. Normally, I'm not this nervous. You can ask Sarah, but being on the other side of a professional, I am kind of like babbling. So
Oh, please. Like, I'm a client too. I've been through therapy all the time. I have a therapist too. Just went through school. You survived a war. There survived a genocide. Like, well, something. I just went to school for it, but
no, I'm talking about the interview process. But anyway, well, thank you so much for your time.
And made a joke, and I called you out on it. Now I feel bad.
No, I think we're having fun. I really enjoy talking to you, and
I have to have you on the show soon, like as soon as we can too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're doing great.
I hope everyone who listened to this episode, please share with anyone that you know about they could do better if they share their story. Oh, they living in pain. So I'm actually going to meet someone who my friend had introduced because she has a story and she just doesn't know how to get it out. And just be a friend. If you have a friend who know that they have a story, just be a friend and say that, I'm all ears. Just to help that person to get through that initial step about talking it. I think that is even just the biggest step to do, is be able to find somebody, no judgmental, no judging zone, and just listen and be a person that that comfort the other person.
Be careful how you respond when someone finally does open up.
Right. Yeah. I usually think that just open your ears and be comfort that person. And I wouldn't give any advice. I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm not a therapist of any sort, but compassion and empathy is the biggest thing that you can do for a friend or somebody who are willing to open up, but still afraid of doing that. So I want to thank you, Tiffany, for what you do and for creating a platform for all of us that who are still kind of trying to open ourselves up.
Thank you,
Sarah.